Why does this 4-level stack interchange, the only one in Connecticut, lead to nothing in one of its directions? I mean, the massive, evidently old interchange just feels eerie, with several ramps built that have gone completely unused for decades. Well, this is because it's actually part of a much larger map of failed, canceled, and forgotten freeways that have plagued the state's history. But that's not all. Connecticut is also home to its fair share of crazy freeway infrastructure, with historic parkway designs, ramps with stop signs, and even more ghost highways. Yes, a state that is almost never known as out of the ordinary has some of the most fascinating freeway systems in the entire country, from start to finish. Before we talk about it though, please consider subscribing to the channel. I make geography and highway content just like this every week. And I still appreciate the support a ton, so if you enjoy the content, subscribing is an easy way to help out. Thank you. So let's waste no time and go right back to the 4-level stack interchange between Interstate 84 and State Route 9. It's located in the town of Farmington, 6 miles to the southwest of downtown Hartford. And as you might suspect, it relates heavily to the city. Built in the 1960s, the stack interchange was intended to connect to I-291, which was part of the Grand Circle. The Grand Circle would form a beltway around Hartford and can be seen in several historic maps. The first and most important part was the northwest bypass of Hartford. It would come off from this interchange, follow this mountainous region out of town, then take a turn to the east and meet up with I-91 on the west side of the Connecticut River. The focus was on this, but it would also expand on the southwest side of Hartford, moving initially south, but then taking a turn to the east and meeting back up with I-91 in Rocky Hill. There's remnants of this too, where we find our second ghost ramps. They were begun in the wide region of I-91, which is actually a big reason why the highway has such a large median. There was also a bridge that went over I-91 southbound, but it was demolished in 1999 when they worked on a highway widening project. I guess they're no longer planning on flattening any neighborhoods. Anyway, as I said, that highway would take that route, but neither of these had been built yet when they decided it was a good idea to make a massive 4-level stack interchange, which was no easy task at this point. They built it in 1962, which leads to my favorite fun fact of the entire thing. It was left totally unused all the way until 1999 when State Route 9 was built. It was just a totally random, absolutely massive interchange just sitting there for 30 years. That's wonderful stuff. Now, one part of the beltway that did get built was I-291 on the north side, which is now the shortest interstate in the state. And the location feels a bit weird, and the ending is quite strange, with it being given a strange connector to the Putnam Highway, just that it didn't have any stubs. So I'm glad that's explained. That's not all Hartford has, though. If we go back to our 1960s proposed expressway map, we see basically everything you could possibly imagine. Honestly, I think it's really funny in this time period that people decided they liked freeways a little bit and instantly just wanted to cover absolutely everything in their state with them. I'd like to turn your attention to I-284, which was supposed to come up from the downtown and connect to I-291, even continuing farther north to I-91, but specifically this inner region brought up some discussion. This ramp here was supposed to connect up to the new freeway, which would be lowered under Governor Street, but environmental impact got to it pretty quick, which is a good thing. It would have stretched along the Connecticut River, and a lot of it was in the floodplain, which is why nothing's there right now. It would also put freeways on both sides of the river, so public backlash ended up just being too much, and now it's just a strange ramp to Governor Street. Environmental concerns were also the main reason for the Grand Circle's cancellation up here, since it passed several environmentally sensitive reservoirs. Quickly before I move on, mentioning downtown Hartford's freeway system is important, because what in the world is this? I-91 completely disconnects the city from its waterfront, actually being built on top of the flood walls originally. I-84 took a route through the north side of the downtown, where local history says the owner of the G. Fox department store influenced the design to run right past her store. A bit farther south, you may notice the Whitehead Highway, which runs into Pulaski Circle. While the original intent here was for it to run straight through Bushnell Park, providing a just stellar background for the Capitol building. On the other side of the river, there's just some crazy use of land, with basically this whole area just being dedicated to a massive freeway triangle, with the largest interchange in the north. I mentioned this one before, it's just significantly larger than it had to be. Finally, we can move out of the Hartford area and go to the affluent New York City metro, home to one of America's most historic and important roads out there, the Merritt Parkway. This is a 37-mile-long freeway, being one of the oldest in the nation, constructed in 1938. This was before the common freeway ideas were normalized, so the thought process was just totally different. It was meant to be a scenic byway, one of the first of its kind, but it would also be an important route for through traffic toward Hartford. The original plan was for it to split and start to form that beltway around Hartford that I was talking about. And this honestly halfway worked, with the parkway system now stretching all the way to Hartford, but that's not what's interesting about it. I just like the fascinating parkway design, with sometimes wooden medians and trees planted in the median. Bridges are usually very low, so all commercial vehicles are banned on the parkway. There are sharp curves and interchanges that are usually way too small. You have to remember this was built for cars in the 1930s, not the 2020s. This ramp here, I think, really encapsulates the Merritt Parkway. You've never ever seen a ramp this shape, and it looks like something a 7-year-old would build on city skylines. You are not meant to get on freeways like this, so they had to put a stop sign at the end of the ramp with no merge lane. You can't make this up, man. Turning onto rural divided highways is bad enough. So let's make you turn onto a narrow parkway in Connecticut and see if you can get up to speed in time. The Merritt Parkway also had an interesting history. It was incredibly expensive due to its routing through an affluent area of Connecticut. But you might be thinking, you could have just used eminent domain and made it a lot cheaper by taking the property and providing them with basically whatever payment you see fit. But no, these guys were geniuses and decided to buy all this land individually from the rich property owners, which ended up inflating the cost by millions. And the dude behind this was promptly fired from his position when the rest of the government found out. We're not quite done yet. State Route 11 is another topic of discussion. It starts near Colchester, and it was meant to run all the way to Waterford near New London. But it struggled with funding and environmental issues, and they only got it done until State Route 82. Here, the highway exits onto the state highway, and a few ghost ramps continue onward, showing what could have been. This is another sort of eerie interchange, and the totally rural location doesn't help when you're driving and you just go under 2 abandoned bridges. Finally, I want to mention what could have been in New Haven. The city has a totally different situation from Hartford with its freeways. There are a lot less of them. This definitely had to do with the location of Yale University, which meant a lot more people opposing the freeways. The biggest one that almost got built was the East Rock Connector, which was meant to go directly through East Rock Park, and the partial interchange was even built to connect to where the freeway would go. There was nothing crazy, and it would end at Whitney Avenue on the other side of the park, but the idea was defeated in 1970 and it never happened. Personally, I just don't understand the obsession with building highways through massive city parks. We saw this everywhere. Baltimore had a plan through Leakin Park. Hartford, as we said, had a plan through Bushnell Park. Memphis had Overton Park, and this is seen everywhere else. Planners simply saw the only place that didn't have structures in the way and decided that was where they needed to go, despite the obvious benefits and necessities of these city parks. It's just a mess. Taking a step back, Connecticut's freeway system just doesn't seem too crazy. I-95 follows the coast, I-91 goes up the middle, and I-84 takes a diagonal route through the state. There are other ones all over, but nothing jumps out at you until you take a closer look at the state that normally stays totally in the shadows. In actuality, it has a freeway system that has more fascinating little stories than any other in the US. Thanks for watching. Thank you to the members this week: Nathan, Dutch over Derlin, Big Golden Yoshi Fan, Bunny, I, James Cermak, Rob R, Big Pasty, Jameson Headley, Colonel Potter, Eric Hare, Third JC17, Drum McCall, The Baked Fruit, Andres Quintero, Jesse Cook, Jalen Rigo, The Autistic City Skylines Fan, Richard Law, Alexander Lichko, Laura Halliday, Charles Watson, Aiden Kyles, The Happy Holiday, Grant Dickerson, Midwest Rail Fan, Richard Horwell, McCassner, D, Stephen Phillips, CJ Brick, Resident Contrarian, Haas of the Wolf, Brock Sanders, Stephen Priestman, SB Wilder, Florida Jake, Alex Williams, Mickey Martinoff, Kurt Ainsley, KMS162, Bryson, Rosebud 4, Duckbird, Wolfing73, Snyder Schwein, Benjamin Whitings, and Ryan Devins. Thank you to the people who have been members for super long: Snyder Schwein, Benjamin Whitings, Ryan Devins. You guys are absolutely crazy. If you want to become a member, the link is down in the description below. All this money goes into my savings, so it's just a nice way to help me out. Thank you.